Good afternoon, everyone. It's Crystal. Today is Sunday, October 18th, 2020. Today we are going to do a couple of projects. We're going to use the Gather Together bundle. So this bundle, it has a stamp set. It comes with 10 stamps and the dies are separate. I keep my dies on a magnet sheet and I attach the magnet sheet to my stamp case with foam tape. And the dies, there are 7 dies in this set. And these are some extra dies. I've done a few projects with this bundle, but I'm going to show you 2 cards I did in preparation for today. We can get started. So this is the first card. It's your traditional A2 size card. The card base is pumpkin pie. And I used a piece of cinnamon cider for the layer. The layer is 4 by 5 1/4. And then I use this die with my die cutting machine to cut out this image on the cinnamon cider. And then I have a piece of cinnamon cider designer series paper. It's from the Flowers for Every Season card pack. Flowers for Every Season pack of designer series paper. Even if you don't have a die cutting machine, this die cuts out this shape. So if you wanted to stamp this shape onto a piece of cardstock or designer series paper, you can just cut this image out. You can just fussy cut it by hand with scissors. So you don't necessarily need a die cutting machine to do any of these projects. It depends on how patient you are, whether or not you want to do some fussy cutting. So I wanted to give people options because I know that some people are beginning with paper crafting. Some people are returning to paper crafting after doing other crafts. So just some options so you know that you don't have to go out and buy a die cutting machine. You can always do these projects with scissors. So the sentiment is on Whisper White. I did Gather Together. And then the 2 pumpkins here, I also stamped everything in the pumpkin pie to match the card base. So just wanted you to see that, just so you know, you don't always have to do black. There are a lot of options when it comes to stamping. And the inside of the card, I used a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Whisper White. That's what the sentiment is. The sentiment is also in this stamp set. May the season bring you smiles and love that will last all year. And then I have this piece of designer series paper. It matches this piece here. This piece is 3 by 3. I'll show you when we put the card together. And this piece is 1 by 4. And also the sentiment, if you don't have a die cutting machine, the sentiment started off 2.5 by 4. So you can just cut it as a rectangle with scissors or with a paper trimmer. You don't necessarily need a die cutting machine. I just wanted to show you what your options are. And once again, that's the inside. And my envelope, this is a standard A2 size envelope. Stampin' Up sells these in packs of 40. And I took the large pumpkin and I stamped it in the lower left. And then I turned my envelope around, stamp it again on the flap. Just so that if it goes in the mail, you just have something nice to look at when it comes to your mailbox. So here are the pieces. This is the card base. Card base is 8.5 by 5.5. Scored at 4.25. There's the score line. I don't know if you can see the score line. And then my inside piece, I've already stamped it. This is 5 by 4.25. So it gives a small margin around this when it goes on the inside of the card. And here's my 1 by 4 inch piece of designer series paper. And this is the front piece. This is Cinnamon Cider. This is 4 by 5.25, and it goes on the front. So this piece, I've already die cut it, the maple leaf. And this piece of designer series paper right here in the middle is 3 by 3. It's a double-sided designer series paper. And I didn't put it together because I wanted you to see that I just adhered it on the back before I put this piece on the card base. Let's see. And I did another envelope. And I can show you, this is a simple project. Even if you don't have the die cutting machine, you can do some fussy cutting. I don't know how patient you are. So here's my card base. I don't fold it until I'm done with all my adhering. So this goes on the front. So I'm going to put some rolling tape on here. I do all 4 sides. And since this is cardstock, I usually do one diagonal just to make sure it stays flat. So this is going to be in the center of this card base. So you see I have equal margins here and here. Hold this down and then just and for my sentiment, I have a second sentiment I've already cut out. I put this on dimensionals, but you can also just lay it flat. I like to have a little bit of dimension when I make all of my projects. So I keep a steady supply of dimensionals. So I usually do 1 in each corner and 1 in the middle, so that the middle does not sag. Those 5 I press down. This is a strong adhesive, so you just press a little, squeeze a little, and then you take off this paper. So I wanted this bottom part of the leaf to show, so that's why I placed it towards the lower left part of the card. So I just press it down, these 4, and then 1 in the middle. And then the front of your card is done. And then for the inside, this is 4 by 5.25. This designer series paper is 1 by 4 inches. And I've already stamped it. It's good to stamp before you adhere, because if you mess up your stamping and you've already adhered it, then you're going to have a problem. So once again, I take my tape gun, do all 4, and since this is a piece of cardstock, I'm going to do a diagonal layer as well. So just double check. That's the front, so you come inside and then place it there. We go. So, and the card is done. So once I decide what I'm going to do, I do a lot of stamping, do a lot of extras. You'll see when I do the next card that I have a lot of extra pieces left over. I keep a snack size bag with all of my extra pieces. So that is our first card. Quick. And if you're going to someone's house for Thanksgiving, this would be a nice card to give to say thank you for inviting me. Or if you're not going to be able to go visit friends or family, then you can just send this in the mail just to say I'm thinking about you during Thanksgiving. So that's our first card. Now our second card, I decided to do a Slimline card. A Slimline card is a card that is taller or wider than it is tall, or if you this orientation is taller than it is wide. So I use cinnamon cider cardstock. I cut the cardstock was 8.5 by 11. So I just cut off the 11 inch side and made it 8.5 by 8. And I scored it at 4. So I have a new scoring tool. It arrived in the mail. This is the Stampin' Up scoring tool. And as I mentioned previously, the numbers are painted on. So it's easy to see where you're scoring as opposed to that small one that I had. And it comes with 3 of these markers. So I have it marked at 4 1/4 and at 5 1/2. I don't cut my paper the long way too often, but I wanted at least to have it marked. And then the third one is in this storage compartment. There's a storage compartment right here. And this is the scoring tool. There's this larger side if you did some paper curling. I don't really do that, but that's what you could use this in for. But I use this smaller edge for when I do my scoring. So just wanted to show you that. Got a lot more done easily once my scoring tool came. So this is 8.5 by 8 because you can use a number 10 envelope. This is a basic envelope you can get from any office supply store, dollar store. This envelope is 9.5 by 4 1/8. So that's why I made my card 4 inches, because it'll still fit in there and the envelope can still close. So if you want to make some cards but you don't want to invest in envelopes and you have some of these at your house, then you can try this Slimline card. So this is $8 by 8.5, scored at 4. There's a piece of Whisper White here. That's 3 3/4 by 8 1/4. And I cut 2 pieces of those, one for the inside and then this piece here. I had some scraps of old olive. I wanted to make it look like grass here. So this is 1 inch by 8 1/4. And then I cut out, like this pumpkin is shiny. I had this left from a previous project. And the way I made it shiny is that I stamped the pumpkin on pumpkin pie ink on pumpkin pie cardstock. And then I put packing tape on top of the paper. I don't know if you can tell that this is shiny. And then I cut it out. So it gives a little shine here to this pumpkin. And I had this left over from a previous project. But specifically for this project, I stamped these pumpkins, pumpkin pie ink on pumpkin pie cardstock. These leaves are they're not stamped, they're just cut. So this does some embossing and cutting at the same time. And this large leaf is in Mary Merlot, and this is the stamp I use. And I have this die, but you could also just cut it, fussy cut it. It has some Mary Merlot scraps, so I cut this down to 1 inch. And then I use this punch, but you don't need this punch. I will show you how you can make this banner using scissors, but I use this punch in order to get this effect. And this is just, this sentiment is on a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I have a punch where I can round out the edges, but you don't have to round out your edges. You can keep them at 90-degree point. And then the inside is the second piece of Whisper White. There's 3 3/4 by 8 1/4. I use a sentiment that's inside of our stamp set. So glad to have you in my life. And there are my 2 pumpkins again. I didn't decorate the envelope yet. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to send this, but so I'm going to show you all the pieces for this, and we can put that together. So here's my 8 1/2 by 8, and I have it scored at 4. This is for the inside. I stamped the pumpkins, but I didn't stamp the sentiment, so we can do that together. Just take my D block, and I usually just place it on here. Hold it up to make sure it's straight. And I use the Memento Black, the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I just tap it and then center it towards the top. Hold it, pick it up straight. So glad to have you in my life. So that's ready. And I'll clean my stamp later. And for this piece is going to go on the front of our card, like that. So I will take my Old Olive. This is 1 by 8 1/4. It's going to go on the bottom of here. So just put some tape on it. Do 2 down the long sides. And then I just line it up, hold it. All right. And then my sentiment was, this is what I stamped on Whisper White, and I rounded the edges. And these are my 2 pieces that I put them end to end, because these are just scraps. I put them end to end on the back of here. But I want to show you how you make this. You take your scissors and you cut, if you don't have the stamp, if you don't have the punch, you just cut up in the middle, however far. So there's a cut here, it's about 1/4 inch. Let me cut a little more. And then you go from the corner to the point. On both sides, corner to the point. So that's how you would make your banner minus that. not that straight, but that's the concept. If you don't have if you don't have the banners pick a punch. So, but for my project, I just adhered these to the bag. Just put some just a little bit extra here. Just so they stick out. So just to give the impression that this is one long piece, because I just had scraps of this color. And then I put that up on dimensionals, but I did that last. So I have all my leaves and pumpkins, and I adhered this first. Since this is cardstock, I do one diagonal piece. This goes on my card. So then I just placed all my elements down, decided where I wanted them. I got one more of these shiny pumpkins. You can tell. Yes, you can see it's some shine to it. And I just placed everything down however I wanted it. There's no right or wrong way. This is whatever you decide to do. And I have extras. And then I put like for this one, I think I'll just skip these leaves, and I'll just do it like that. So that is the Gather Together bundle. Comes with 10 stamps. Stamps here, and you can, if you don't buy the dies, you can buy the dies separately, or you could buy the stamps separately. Whenever I buy a coordinating die set or coordinating punches, I put this label here because just in case this magnet gets separated from the rest of the stamps, I want to know that, and I have to store it some other way for whatever reason. I want to just know that I have some dies that can go with this stamp set. So those are our 2 cards for this week. And I just wanted to give you a sneak peek for next week, because next week is the 25th, October 25th. And we have a stamp set. We have a bundle that's going live on November 3rd, but it's only available for a limited amount of time. So I wanted to give everyone the ability to learn about it, and so they can make a decision whether or not they want to get it. It's called the Quite Curvy Variety Bundle. And it comes with 2 stamp sets, dies, and this designer series paper. So the Christmas stamps and the paper will not be available after January 4th. So from November 3rd to January 3rd, you can get these 4 items in a bundle. There's a new catalog, a mini catalog that's going to go live on January 4th, and the Quite Curvy and the dies will be in the catalog. But the Christmas stamps and the paper will not be in the catalog. So if you want the Christmas stamps and the paper, I suggest you purchase it when this becomes available on November 3rd. I'll say more about it next week, but I just wanted you to get a chance to see it, just in case you are thinking about making your own Christmas cards. This is a good option. I have a lot of options. I got my paper pumpkin yesterday. I won a prize from my team leader, the Tag Buffet, which is in the August to December catalog. It has enough supplies to make Christmas tags, but you can also make Christmas cards. So I have a lot of options. Just wanted to let you know that this will be next week. We'll make some projects with this bundle next week. And thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And I will see you all next week. Thank you.